Orphan Boy pretends to be a weak bodyguard, but is actually the strongest assassin, half human, half monster, with godlike powers. Kufa is an ugly, disgusting orphan loser who kicked the bucket after his city exploded. His adoptive father, Marquis Blossom, checks on him while a huge spider looks at them. The spider named Nakwa is happily saying that this will become his everyday staple meal. Marquis Blossom complains, realizing that he just lost all his adoptive children because of an experiment that he wanted to end. But Nakwa tells him to shut up. Nakwa admits they failed to control the night gene factor. However, Blossom should be happy because his wife just survived because of it. Nakwa says they should celebrate because from now on, more humans will turn into half monsters to provide them with a steady supply of new test subjects. Suddenly, Kufa gets up and stares at Nakwa. Blossom is confused because a dead body shouldn't move or change hair color. Nakwa mentions how impressive a dead body like Kufa could awaken his vampire powers. Kufa ignores Nakwa and walks over to his unconscious adoptive sister Rose on the ground. He notices she's on her last breaths and apologizes before biting her neck. Nakwa warns Kufa that turning the girl into his vampire kin will turn her into a monster because she will always have the thirst to suck blood. Suddenly, shots are fired at Nakwa and several members of the White Knight led by Oyeji appear. Nakwa turns his attention to them as they attack him, but he easily eliminates the men and goes after Oyeji. He quickly regrets confronting Nakwa as he didn't know this spider was in a class monster. Nakwa complains, mentioning that Oyeji has some nerve to wound him, but he wants to use him for his experiment since Oyeji is a mana user. Suddenly, Kufa appears from behind and punches one of Nakwa's eyes, followed up by a jump into the air to finally give a punch and blind the spider. Oyeji uses this chance to slide under the giant spider, shooting it several times before using a special bullet and his mana to vaporize it. Oyeji gets satisfied with the victory until he notices Kufa next to Rose and asks what he's doing. Kufa explains that he's erasing Rose's memories. He wants her to forget about him being a vampire, thereby preventing her from suffering from bloodthirst. Kufa then asks him to spare Rose's life. He knows that Oyeji is a soldier from Flandor, whose job is to eliminate monsters just like him. Oyeji mentions that Rose would eventually remember that she's a vampire and possibly attack humans. Kufa promises him that he will keep a close watch on his sister, and in return, he offers to become Oyeji's subordinate and join the guild. Oyeji explains that he can only accept that offer if Kufa makes sure that Rose's memories stay sealed forever. But that also means that Rose can never remember who Kufa is. Kufa accepts, but Oyeji keeps pressing the buttons. He claims that Rose will never be grateful to Kufa and won't ever think about him. In short, Kufa will become a shadow for someone who couldn't care less about it, just like you and your crush. Kufa accepts the deal and Oyeji asks him how he can go that far for her. Kufa tears down while smiling and says that he just wants his little adoptive sister to be happy. Rose wakes up calling for Kufa, but Kufa finally erases her memories for good, promising to watch her from afar and keep her safe. Years later, Kufa is now part of the assassin guild called White Knight. He's on a mission to infiltrate a noble's house when he's met with a group of assassins. They try to eliminate Kufa, but he turns out to be much stronger as he easily deflects their bullets with his sword. He manages to eliminate most of them except one guy who is equally strong and controls bandages. They are fighting when Oyeji interferes with a gunshot at the bandaged guy. Oyeji asks if the bandaged guy found what he wanted. The assassin tells them to ask the dead of the house and uses his power to throw the body at Kufa. He then uses this distraction to escape through the windows. Kufa asks if he should pursue it, but Oyeji says no as the assassin already succeeded in eliminating the lord of the house. Right then, after Oyeji realizes they've come to a dead end in their investigation. Their task was to find out if this guy had an affair with a noble lady called Melanoa. But since he's dead, they now must take another approach. Oyeji gives Kufa his new mission. He must become the private tutor of Melida Angel, Melanoa's daughter. His job is to guide her and foster her into a battle maiden befitting of an aristocratic house. Because at the moment, she's as useful as Sakura, forcing her grandfather to question who's her father. Kufa accepts the mission and departs on a train to Flandor, humankind's last standing city-state. Kufa is on a moving train, reading a book about humankind's last standing city-state, known as the world within the lantern, Flandor. He then explains there's a huge war between humans and monsters. There are over 30 races of monsters, but there's only an S-rank race, the vampires. He also reveals that humanity's only hope to survive comes from people like Melida, nobles who can use mana to defeat the monsters, except that she's the only one who can't use it. After arriving, he steps off the train and begins walking through the city for a few minutes until he finally reaches the Angel residence, where the maids welcome him. Amy, the head of the maids, offers to show him around the residence. They reach the front of the house, and she mentions that he will be working there for the next 3 years. She's about to mention that Melida should be nearby when they notice Melida standing on the house's balcony looking at the night sky. Amy calls out to her out of concern. That's when she realizes that she's wearing a skirt and Kufa is watching her. She becomes nervous, stumbles, and falls. Kufa rushes to catch her in midair and prevents her from getting hurt. He asks if she's hurt and she opens her eyes, but she can't help but be captivated by his looks. Shyly, she then asks if he's her instructor, which Kufa confirms by introducing himself. Amy informs Melida that it's time to go to the academy, and Kufa will accompany her. Melida wasn't aware of it, and Kufa let her know that he would be both her instructor and attendant. When they arrive at the academy, Melida is greeted by a girl named Nerva, stating she's late again. Nerva asks who Kufa is, and Melida tells her he is her private tutor. Nerva begins to tease her for not having awakened her mana yet, then asks Melida to be her training partner. Mana is a special noble power that gives its users an unusual talent and increases their physical abilities beyond those of ordinary humans. Melida is part of one of the 3 big aristocratic houses with the title of Paladin, and should have awakened her mana since the age of 7. But she's useless because she hasn't been able to manifest her mana. Melida and Nerva prepare for the training, with Kufa observing and impressed by Melida's fighting stance. However, Nerva uses her mana and easily blocks all Melida's attacks. She then attacks and defeats her. Kufa observes and realizes that she is talented but useless. Nerva continues to mock, saying that Melida has a dream to join the city's elite unit called the Crest Legion. The other girls around join the party and start laughing at her. Nerva adds more salt to the wound, saying that Melida's cousin, Elise, will soon be a member of the Crest Legion. And unlike Melida, Elise had successfully awakened her paladin class years ago with her private tutor. Nerva says Elise will fulfill Melida's dream instead, causing Melida to run away, and Elise to chase after her. Kufa can't believe Melida plans to join the strongest guild, Crest Legion, despite her talentless state. Afterward, Kufa returns to his quarters to write a report. After observing her for a day, he sees no sign of her possessing any mana aptitude. In conclusion, she's not the biological daughter of the Night Duke, Felgus Angel, and he now has to carry out his second mission, which is to eliminate Melida. Usually, he would have waited a bit more just to make sure, but he thinks of the humiliation she went through that day and feels it's best for her. He also believes she's a child who's the product of a mother who, although wealthy, came from a commoner class and had an affair with a man of noble descent. Although Melida boasts about the Angel family name, she lacks the qualities to be a paladin. Despite not knowing all this, Melida still believes in her own talents. Kufa believes Melida has suffered a lot and will continue suffering, and it won't end. So, it's best he puts an end to it, and as an assassin, it's his pride to do his assassin's duty. He goes to find Melida in her room, but she isn't there. So, he looks all over the city and finds her being attacked by monsters. Kufa is surprised and wonders how the creatures got so high up in the city. He then remembers Oyaji's words, mentioning that her grandpa forced her to fight monsters to awaken her mana. The creatures beat Melida, and she tries to fight back, but they are too strong. They try to cut her hair, making her cry because it's the only thing that reminds her of her mom. Instead of fighting, she cries while explaining that she must keep her hair and join the Crest Legion to be recognized as part of the family. Kufa watches and realizes Melida doesn't scream for help because that would mean admitting she doesn't have mana and doesn't belong to the Angel family. Kufa is impressed by her determination and decides to help. He defeats the creatures while Melida looks at him with admiration. He apologizes for being late and offers a hand, but she stands up on her own. Kufa realizes she's used to being alone fighting against the world. As she wipes away her tears, he hopes for the day that everyone will acknowledge Melida. Kufa, holding her hands, tells Melida that from that moment onward, he is willing to risk his life to help her, and she should accept his help. Melida starts crying and he informs her that there is only one way for her to awaken her mana, but if it fails she will die. Melida agrees, despite the potential danger. He kisses her hand and tells her that he will put his life on the line for her. They return to the mansion and Melida dances around after awakening her mana. The maids are happy that she can now use mana, but Kufa knows there's no turning back. He can't let Melida know about her mother's illicit affair as well as his job as an assassin. He must find a way to keep her true lineage a secret along with the support he's giving her. Oyaji and Melida's grandfather cannot know anything about this because if they discover it, both he and Melida could be in danger of being eliminated. so he wishes that Melida doesn't do anything that forces him to eliminate her. The next day, Kyufa examines Melida's body while explaining that she can now use mana because she consumed a special substance. However, there's still the possibility that she might develop physical abnormalities. Luckily, after the examination, he reports that she has no abnormalities. However, Melida asks if she will ever be able to become his pupil, and he tells her he already considers her his pupil. Melida starts jumping around, saying she can't wait to go to school. Now that she has mana, she is no longer different from everybody else, meaning she can make friends. But Kyufa informs her that she's forbidden from using mana. She can only use it while training with him, at least hide it until the student tournament begins in 1 week. Later at the academy, Melida continues attending her classes while pretending that nothing has changed. The other girls are talking to Nerva about the tournament, but Nerva leaves them to harass Melida. Nerva takes a book from her, saying she wants to read it and that Melida should give it to her since they are friends. She tells Melida that she should go and change so they can train together, but Melida doesn't reply. Nerva just leaves with the other girls, saying Melida's lesson with her tutor must be more important than staying with her friends. Melida is sad because all the girls are mocking her, but Kyufa is waiting outside for her, overhearing the whole situation. While walking down the hallway, Melida mentions that she still has no friends despite awakening her mana. Kyufa tells her that the ability is still not perfect, so she should wait. After all, the tournament is almost near. Till then, he tells her that she needs to keep giving her school friends the wrong impression about her. He explains that by doing so, those girls will witness a miracle during the tournament. Kyufa then notices 2 girls following them and confronts them. They turn out to be Melida's cousin, Elise, and her private tutor. They come closer, and Elise apologizes to Melida for the last time. Then Elise's tutor introduces herself to Melida as Rossetti Prickett. Melida is shocked because Rossetti is famous because she awakened mana despite being a commoner. If that wasn't impressive, she also became the youngest member of the Crest Legion. She held the special title of Career Marquess granted by the king. Rossetti just says people overhype her achievements and that she shouldn't mind all that. Rossetti asks her to call her Rose and mentions that she expects to get along with Kyufa, given that they are both tutors of the same household. A week later, the tournament is about to begin, but Melida is feeling very nervous and shaking. Kyufa reassures her that she will be fine as she has been training for this moment. Melida's father and her grandfather arrive at the stadium and ignore her, which makes her even more anxious. Everyone is seated for the tournament, and Kyufa realizes that this tournament will decide Melida's future. She will either be disposed of or spared, depending on her performance. Rose sits by Kyufa's side and mentions how Elise is worried about Melida. The tournament is about to begin, and it's composed of a team battle. Melida's team will be facing Nerva and the bullies group, but there's a problem. Melida's team tells her to leave everything to them because she can't do anything. The duel begins with the objective being to destroy the enemy's base. Nerva expects Melida to stay bay and be useless, until she notices Melida running towards the enemy's base. Nerva gets happy that Melida is coming forward to take a beating in front of everyone. She launches herself at Melida to smash her, but Melida activates her mana to block the attack and push Nerva back. This surprises everyone in the arena because they cannot believe Melida has awakened her mana. Kyufa feels proud to see her displaying confidence and newfound power. Nerva rises to attack, saying Melida shouldn't get too cocky because she hasn't learned how to use her mana. She tries to block Melida's swing, but Melida kicks her. She lectured her that even though an opponent has a weapon doesn't mean that's the only thing they fight with. This makes Nerva angry, who charges at Melida, but she blinds Nerva with sand and hits her with the sword, sending Nerva flying into a wall. Nerva gets angry because the only person she cannot accept being defeated by is Melida. She unleashes her full mana and jumps up to plunge her hammer onto the ground, causing a huge wave of wind and dust to blow across the arena. The dust clears and a big hole appears on the ground. Nerva starts mocking Melida again because she is kneeling on the ground. She asks if the fight is too intense for her and offers to spare her if she surrenders since they are friends. Before Nerva's final strike, Melida raises her sword to Nerva's neck, saying her tutor's strikes were more frightening. The two start exchanging blows and Melida manages to push Nerva back. She manages to pin her against the wall and charges forward to deal the final blow. But when she strikes, her sword is projected away. Melida and Kyufa realize that she just consumed all her mana while charging the attack. Melida starts running away, but Nerva seizes the advantage and slams her to the ground. However, Melida stands and continues running as Nerva fires at her and lands one shot, leaving her once again on the ground. Nerva starts making fun of her, saying Melida should be frightened of her for defying her in front of everyone. However, Melida says Nerva doesn't frighten her, and this somehow brings tears to Nerva's eyes. Nerva suddenly recalls the day she first met Melida. Despite people calling Melida talentless, Nerva still approached Melida, promising to be her friend even if she had no mana. After this memory, she tells Melida that she should have just remained someone without mana. She then decides to eliminate Melida using her full power, but Melida stands up once again. She uses the same technique called the Phantom Blade, which Kufa had used to save her. Upon taking the hit, Nerva falls flat onto the ground, marking her defeat. Kufa is shocked to see her using that technique because she only saw him use it once. Melida takes Nerva's weapon and rushes to the enemy base to destroy it. However, Nerva's teammates come from behind. Luckily, Melida's teammates come to support her and encourage her to complete the job and secure the win. After the battle, Melida runs towards Kufa in the hallway. He raises her like a child, congratulating her on her victory. But as Kufa and Melida celebrate her victory, she encounters her father passing by, ignoring her presence. She tells him about her victory, but he isn't impressed and asks her to prove herself in a match against another school. She holds Kufa's sleeve with tears in her eyes, saying she's not happy about the victory. Kufa comforts her, telling her not to be disheartened as it is a significant step forward since her father has spoken to her for the first time. Suddenly, Nerva runs towards her, returning the book she took. She apologizes and runs away quickly, which delights Melida. The second match begins with Melida facing her cousin's team. However, Elise destroys Melida's base in just seconds. Everyone is shocked to see the power of a paladin class and one of the strongest in the academy. After the tournament, Kufa and Rose talk about how their academy is preparing for a new tournament against other schools. In this tournament, only 2 representatives, called cadets, will participate, and they are selected from the top performing students. Melida asks Elise to join her team. She knows she's trash when compared to Elise, but she thinks it would be wonderful if she could fight alongside her. Elise is about to respond when Nerva and some girls approach them, greeting Melida and then walking away. Elise is about to ask Melida a question when the headmistress comes in for the announcement. The headmistress mentions the tournament and how it would be held jointly with Dottridge Girls Academy. The winner would earn the title of Moon Goddess, Luna Lumiere. There will also be a challenging trial they have to face, which will take place on the final day of the tournament. But the tournament is not only judged by the trial but also by the conduct of the cadet in the school, and with everyone during the 7-day period the tournament is held. The votes from every student and the trial results will be calculated, and the cadet who receives the most points overall will receive the title of Luna Lumiere. She then goes ahead to present the cadet representing their academy. To everyone's surprise, Melida and Elise were selected as the representatives. With the cadets assembled on the stage, the headmistress explains that the tournament's trial would take place in the Glassman Palace. The trial is a round-robin battle royal between groups of 3 students, each led by a cadet. Each student will have a metal pin to their chest, and a team would need to collect the most pins within a time limit to be declared the winner. The headmistress then asks the cadets to pick their 2 teammates, starting with Melida. She looks at everyone staring at her and starts to panic. Nobody likes her, nor she does have any friends. However, to everyone's surprise, Nerva volunteers herself. Another girl does the same and Melida's team consists of Nerva and Shenfa. Nerva tries to clear things up, explaining that she's only taking responsibility as a former teammate of Melida's, and Shenfa promises to do her best. With all cadets assembled, the headmistress starts the tournament by initiating the academy lockdown. The students start leaving the place and Melida overhears the girls commenting on how suspicious she is for being chosen as a cadet. They even mention how the headmistress was disappointed. They think Melida did something like switch the names. After hearing all those comments, Melida meets with Kufa and tries to explain she has done nothing to influence her selection. He hugs her and says that even if everyone is against her, he will stand by her. This brings tears to her eyes and boosts her confidence. Melida and Nerva start training together to prepare for the tournament. Nerva is about to hit her while Melida prepares to counterattack. However, she panics and almost gets hit. She manages to avoid the hit in time and Kufa explains that Melida needs to work on her timing. Nerva asks if he can make her weapon lighter because this training could hurt Melida, but Kufa tells her to shut up. He explains they need pressure and increase their output by 120%. If they manage to pull it out, which sometimes I fail, they will be able to use those moves in an actual match. Shenfa asks if they can take a break, and Kufa agrees to it. During the break, Melida sits alone under a tree. She's worried that even with the training she might not be able to match Elise. Later that night, Elise's maid is running around in the academy. Kyufa stops her by mentioning that she's trying to get rid of the evidence. The maid gets startled and asks what he's talking about. Kyufa approaches her and takes a shard of the stained glass from her skirt. The maid starts to freak out, explaining that she checked herself over that morning. However, Kyufa reveals he just tricked her by using another piece of glass that he had. Kyufa then reveals that Rose, Elise, and Melida were watching nearby. Elise asks why the maid put Melida's name as a candidate. The maid reveals she did everything to force Melida and Elise to compete against each other. In short, she's angry that Melida is still seen as equal to Elise despite being a useless girl who had no mana some weeks ago. She wants to show everyone in the family how Elise is a better choice to be the next head when compared to Melida. Melida remembers her mother's words, telling her that she must show her power if she wants to accomplish something. She tells the maid that she will prove she is worth standing beside Elise by winning. Later that night, Kyufa commends Melida for handling the situation with the maid well. However, he also mentions that she should also get good at using her sword just like she is with her words. Kyufa leaves the room, and as he walks into the hallway, a black origami falls behind him. He goes to the forest as he realizes the black origami is an emissary of the White Knight. In the forest, he sees a cloaked figure on a branch and asks the person what they want. The guy burns a card to write some words in the air because he never learned to talk no jutsu, literally. Kyufa realizes it's Black Media and asks why she's there. Media said the organization believed that Kyufa had given an incomplete report, and his loyalty was being questioned. Kyufa defends that he reported the facts, and there should be reason for doubting him. However, the guild wants a test sample of Melida's blood because they find it suspicious that she only managed to awaken her mana after Kyufa appeared. Kyufa explains that he will expose his identity to the Angel family if he does that. However, Media responds that she will get Melida's blood on her own. Kyufa tries to stop her by throwing a knife. Media easily dodges all his attacks, saying she can take his retaliation as a way of exposing his betrayal to the guild. Kyufa defends his ground, saying he's doing his duty as Melida's attendant. They continue exchanging blows until they are suddenly interrupted by Rose. She informs him that she already notified the academy director for backup. Kyufa tells her she didn't have to come, but she defends that she wasn't going to sit back and do nothing. She attacks Media, who dodges her blades and jumps to attack Kyufa, then pulls out a gun, firing it at Rose. Kyufa quickly moves her out of the way, shielding her. Media notices that Kyufa is being overly defensive about Rose and asks if she's the one. Kyufa refuses to answer, but when they're about to restart the fight, Media leaves because the guards are coming. She promises to return, saying she's a shadow that lurks behind them. Rose mentions she has never seen this way of fighting and asks Kyufa who Media is. Kyufa reveals that Media belongs to the clown class. He mentions that there are 8 classes for people who aren't from a royal knight family. He is a samurai, but there's also fencer, gladiator, maiden, gunner, wizard, cleric, and finally clown. Each class has a specialty except for clowns, who can use every ability from any class. And Media is the strongest clown in Flandor. Rose and Kyufa meet with the headmistress, who tells them the tournament will still go as planned because it's impossible to suspend it. Kyufa explains to the headmistress that Media is a hired assassin well known around. Rose also adds that Media must have disguised herself as a student and snuck into the academy. She thinks it's dangerous to leave the situation unattended, but the headmistress stands firm on her decision of the tournament holding. Finally, the day of the Luna Lumiere tournament trial arrives. Rose meets with Kyufa and asks if he plans on staying to watch the girls or if he intends to use his sword to settle things with Media. She says he's coming along, but he tells her to stay so she can watch over the students and figure out who Media has disguised herself as among the students. The headmistress then comes out to explain the trial rules again, with the winner being the cadet who collects the most special medals. Then they can all view the action in the Glassman Palace through the binoculars provided, and then she declares the trial to begin. Kyufa leaves immediately, wishing Melida luck. Melida's team is about to enter when she's stopped by the sentries at the gate. But by revealing her mana, the statues allow her to pass. Nerva and Shenfa cover Melida, and they are suddenly shot at by the gunner from Elise's team. Nerva mentions they are lucky to face Elise as their first opponent. The other 2 members of Elise's team attack them while Elise comes down the stairs. Nerva and Shenfa tell Melida to go after Elise while they face off against Elise's team members. Melida runs towards Elise, who is waiting, but Elise leads her to another place. Melida asks her to stop running and fight, then she launches at her. Meanwhile, Kyufa encounters a girl named Mula Moore on a tower and attempts to attack her, thinking she is Media in disguise. He asks her to give back what she took, cutting down her bag and pinning her to the ground. But Mule just smiles at him, saying he's quite affectionate. He attempts to strike her, but Mule blocks his attack with her sword. Kyufa steps back, realizing that her mana is one where she uses an absorption attack that whittles away at and consumes her opponent's mana. Kyufa realizes he has made a mistake. He bows to apologize and asks for her name. She reveals it and explains she is a Diabolos class and the daughter of Duke Lamore, one of the 3 big Knight Duke houses. Kyufa apologizes again and returns to the tournament, realizing he made a mistake not noticing Media's move to transform into a cadet and infiltrate the trial. Meanwhile, Melida and Elise are still clashing swords. Melida asks Elise why she was silent and if she has anything to say, she should just say it. But Elise tells Melida that she is weak. This distracts Melida, and Elise sends her crashing into a pillar. Elise begins revealing that she's been running away from fighting Melida since the first tournament. She also wanted to avoid this trial because she didn't want to know that Melida was weaker than her, and she never wanted to be an equal to Melida. She hits the ground with her sword, creating a wave that Melida quickly dodges. She adds that she preferred being below Melida and disliked being number 1, as well as attracting everyone's attention. Overall, she dislikes herself for being so powerful. She prefers being second best and staying behind Melida. Melida then asks if Elsie is okay with her acting as her big sister. Elise tells her that's what she always wanted, to be the little sister. Elise reveals her true power as a paladin, about to hit Melida, but Melida blocks the attack, saying she will accept Elise's challenge. Elise is furious, saying Melida is weaker than her, preparing another power attack. However, Melida taps into her full power to counter it and uses her new technique to destroy Elise's weapon. She then asks Elise who she's calling weak, leaving her in shock. Melida continued to press forward, kicking her and lecturing her to keep her distance from her opponent. She then puts her onto the floor and tells Elise to watch as she will always be one step ahead. No matter how strong Elise becomes in the future, she will always be one step ahead. With tears in her eyes, Elise starts to cry as Melida assures her that she will always be by her side helping her. They embrace themselves in tears when suddenly Nerva appears, applauding their reunion. She then says that Melida fights like a samurai class, just like her instructor. Melida mentions that she's not emitting Nerva's mana and demands to know who she is. Nerva then transforms, revealing herself as Media. This causes some part of the castle to shatter. Rose rushes to the castle as others are in panic. Melida and Elise try to escape, but Media attacks them. Melida decides to fight, claiming she will protect Elise as her big sister and use her instructor's way to fight. They both clash swords, but Media has the upper hand because she is a dual-wield user. She sends both of them through a glass. The palace sentries appear to protect Melida and Elise, but Media manages to stop their attacks and effortlessly defeat them. She's about to launch an attack on Melida when Kyufa intervenes and stops Media. They engage in a battle that leads them outside the castle, eventually defeating her. He reveals her real face, physique, and mana, which makes her feel embarrassed. She then mentions that she can't return, saying she lost. Turns out she knows how to talk, but just wanted to be a brat. Kyufa then hands a supplementary report to Media to deliver to Oyaji. He claims that Oyaji will decide the next action when he reads the letter, and as for her, it prevents any punishment. Media accepts it, concluding the conflict. Following this, the tournament ends and Kara from the other academy is appointed as the winner. The Media incident was swept under the rug like it never happened. But Kyufa is worried about something. Elise's maid doesn't have mana, which should make it impossible for her to enter the Glass Mondo place. So, he thinks there must be someone who guided her to swap the stained glass. Days later, Rose's father, Blossom, arrives at the academy to guide the academy's trip to Shangarda. Elsie asks Rose why her father is at the academy, and she says it's because of their training trip to Shangarda, with Kyufa adding that it's also Rose's hometown. Rose is surprised he knows that, and Kyufa mentions it's all part of his line of work as everyone knows the information about Blossom, a master genetic engineer. But upon seeing Kyufa, Blossom initially becomes frightened but calms himself, saying that Kyufa reminded him of someone he knew but that person is now dead, leaving everyone surprised. He explains that it was years ago, there had been an atrocious mass murder that took place in the town, recalling the incident with young Kyufa and Nakwa. He adds that Rose wouldn't recall it and it was caused by a mastermind who was 12 years old at the time, and he can see the face of the young boy on Kyufa, shocking everyone. The academy's director interrupts the discussion to continue with the trip briefing, asking them to go to the Grand Hall. In the hall, Melida was worried about Kyufa because his mood changed when Blossom mentioned the mass murder. She tells Elise that she's worried about Kyufa and would like to go check on him. But as she runs along the hallway, she's stopped by Media, who is now an instructor in the academy and goes by the name Lack. She's about to tell Lack that she just wants to check on Kufa when she hears a voice telling her to stay back. She wonders what the voice is, and Lack asks what voice she's talking about. She realizes Lack didn't hear the voice she heard. Suddenly, there's a scream coming from the Grand Hall. Melida reaches there to see an unconscious girl on the ground, and no one knows what happened. She also sees Kufa, who mentions he just arrived. Everyone is still in panic when Blossom comes and decides to use one of his inventions to find the culprit. The volatile agent he uses traces back to any sign of mana present at the scene. He pours it into the fire, and it reveals the color of the mana to be blue. Blossom adds that it was mana from a male in his teens. Everyone turns to Kufa and starts to suspect him since he's the only male fitting that description. Kufa can only say he couldn't prove his innocence now. Despite this incident, the Academy decides to continue the trip to Shanga. While on the train, Melida is seated beside Elise, worried for Kufa. Elise asks what she thinks the culprit is trying to accomplish. Melida says she has no idea. They arrive at Shanga, and Blossom shows them around, starting with an area filled with genetically modified vegetation created by him. Then a man runs toward them. Blossom reveals the man is named Deck, with an I instead of E, and explains that he's Rose's fiancé. Deck tells Blossom that someone has fallen victim again, so they head to the city. Upon arriving at the scene, Melida sees people gathered, some saying a school student has fallen victim. She passes through the crowd and sees Elise on the floor. She notices bloodstains on the carpet, and Blossom holding a lifeless Rose. She rushes to Elise but sees that she's just unconscious. She then notices Blossom holding his daughter while asking why she died. Deck gets angry and says they should rally the townsfolk and go after Kufa. He claims Kufa is the one who eliminated Rose, and they should bring him to justice. Blossom picks Rose, saying she still has hope of survival, and he will do his best to revive her. Shenfa approaches Blossom, saying it's best not to move her around too much, but he tells her to shut up because she's just a school student. As a sage, he will do his best to bring Rose back to life. He then leaves with her. Melida is just confused at all that just transpired. Melida lays Elise in bed, looking over her when Instructor Lack comes in. She commends Melida's past effort in the tournament, but Melida just asks for some time alone with Elise. Lack warns they cannot leave the city until the lights are out, so she shouldn't make any rash decisions. After Lack leaves, Melida picks up Elise's sword, asking Elise to lend her strength. Suddenly, she hears men shouting. Shenfa rushes into the room, telling Melida she must run away immediately. Melida asks what's happening. Shenfa explains that Blossom was attacked, and the culprit ran away with Rose's corpse. She also explains they found blue mana at the scene of the crime. The headmistress can no longer defend Kufa anymore. The men get closer, and Shenfa proceeds to lock the door, saying the townspeople are aware Melida is connected to Kufa. They've come for her to take her hostage and lure out Kufa. They are about to break down the door, and Shenfa urges her to run away quickly. Melida goes to the window, still holding Elise's sword, and with one last look at Elise, she leaves. She uses mana to land safely and starts running, apologizing to everyone, and promising to get to the root of the whole matter. Melida arrives at the vegetation area, the first mysterious location she encountered in the city. She remembers Kufa tried to prevent her from coming there, so she thinks she must check it out. With Elise's sword, she manages to destroy a large rock blocking the path. She then passes through a secret corridor, seeing spiderwebs and a skeleton along the way. Then she reaches a small office. Inside the office, Melida discovers several documents and books signed by Blossom. These books all have been written about research on the night gene factor capable of reviving dead humans into monsters. It's mentioned that he had failed before. He's been trying it again, experimenting on the citizens. However, she hears the mysterious voice again, saying someone has crept into his lair and demands to know who she is. Melida, on guard, introduces herself as a young paladin, and then questions the identity of the speaker. After hearing that she's a paladin, the mysterious man says he wishes to use her as an experiment. Suddenly, Rose appears with a half-vampire appearance. Her mana has turned blue, and she walks towards Melida, demanding her blood. Melida suspects that she might be the culprit behind the murders. While backing down, Melida loses her balance and falls to the ground. The voice in Melida's head urges Rose to drink Melida's blood till she's no more, saying Kufa's student will be the first sacrifice. Rose attempts to attack Melida, but Kufa intervenes, telling Rose to snap out of it. He ends up transforming into his vampire form to stop Rose. He tries to reason with her, saying she should not give in to the darkness. Her memories as a human should act to constrain her, asking her to remember all the people who love her. She ends up backing away and then escapes from the office. The mysterious man says it's futile, and that Kufa can't undo Rose's 7 years of thirst. He claims that Kyufa will watch Rose fall under his control, which angers him. Melida, who is scared, questions why he looks that way, but Kyufa remains silent. Melida tries approaching him, but he tells her to stay away. Melida asks why. He then approaches her and pins her down, saying he will have to erase any memories of him from her memories. This is something he can easily do without any after effects because he is a vampire. They will start over, just like the first day they met, but he will still be her tutor, though. He adds that no one has ever accepted him when he looks like a vampire, and he's scared as she's also looking at him differently now. However, Melida declares that no matter how the world views him, she will always be with him, surprising Kyufa. She hugs and kisses him, telling him that he looks lovely despite his appearance. He asks if she can still trust him despite revealing that he is from the barbarous land of eternal night, and her natural enemy is a half-monster. If his secret were to be revealed, he would be hunted down and deleted. He asks her to promise not to tell anyone about what she's seen, and if she does, he will execute her. She accepts, also out of fear, as Kyufa presses his fangs on her neck. Following that, Kyufa says they need to help Rose, as someone is trying to force open her sealed memories. He believes it's Nakwa and Blossom. They are planning to secure a large number of followers to act as his military force by using Deck. Deck has a huge influence in the town, and marrying him to Rose will produce a lineage of mana users. Another problem is if Rose reveals her true nature as a vampire. He too has to reveal his true nature, making him appear in public a big risk. Melida shares his idea of stopping Nakwa and Blossom's plan, and Kyufa reveals he has a way but will need her help, which she agrees to. Rose and Deck's wedding is taking place. Seeing Rose present for the wedding, Blossom has managed to convince everyone that he has found a way to revive his daughter. However, Melida interrupts the wedding. She mentions Rose's love for Kyufa won't match her love for him. Rose starts getting confused and has a headache. Rose goes on and reveals that she has kissed him twice, confusing Rose. Melida continues to speak, urging Rose not to do anything that would upset both her and Elise. Rose regains her consciousness and challenges Melida to a duel. They begin their fight for who has the right to Kyufa's affection. Melida uses a double attack, which blocks Rose's attack and aims at Rose but instead misses it and hits Blossom instead. The fire burns Blossom's hair and a spider jumps down from his head. Melida confronts the spider, revealing that Blossom has been controlled by Nakwa. Then the spider releases some steam, and Nakwa reveals his true form to everyone. Melida tells everyone that Nakwa is the monster responsible for all the attacks, which he gladly affirms. The students attempt to capture him, but Nakwa creates a distraction and escapes through a secret passage. Rose follows him, not backing down, saying she remembers that he was the one who forced her to delete all the people in the city. But the time when she hesitated to bite Elise, Nakwa got angry and deleted her. She also recalls that he was responsible for what happened years ago, but Nakwa grabs her by the throat and attempts to kill her. Kyufa arrives, kicking Nakwa away, and telling him to stay away from his little sister. He orders Rose to awaken, and they both transform into vampires. He tells her that together they will end Nakwa. All this while, Nakwa always refers to Kyufa as the Ice King. Nakwa boldly claims he's an Arachne and one of the Grand Lords who rule the night world, so he can't be defeated. Blue flames engulf him as he transforms into a giant spider, breaking out of the corridor. Kyufa and Rose start to attack him, but he proves to be skilled at defending himself. Rose hits a boulder, trying to cause the rocks to fall on Nakwa, but he captures them in his web and attacks them. They move away, hiding in the dust. Rose then goes under Nakwa using an ability called Grimstorm. She shoots him into the air and then opens up a zero-gravity cave that suspends Nakwa's movement in the air. Kyufa attacks him as he navigates the space using the frozen rocks. He punches Nakwa into a spiked boulder, and Rose finishes him off with attacks of her own, like lightning, disintegrating his body. However, they haven't defeated him. Nakwa turns into black smoke and moves into a crater in the ground. He claims they can't annihilate him since he can break apart. Rose worries he will escape, but Kyufa says this is different from 7 years ago. Suddenly, they hear Nakwa scream in pain, asking if this was Kyufa's plan. With this, they hear Nakwa's final scream, confirming that he was destroyed. Rose hugs Kyufa and tells him that she now remembers everything. Kyufa, however, decides to erase Rose's memory again because he wants his sister to live a normal life, and that's the promise he made to his guild. She argues that she wants to be by his side, but he promises her that he will always be by her side no matter what. He tells her to live her life as a human and seals her memories. Months after this conflict, classes at the academy return to normal. Kyufa acknowledges that Melida has grown significantly in her academics and training, exceeding his expectations. At the Grand Hall, the headmistress announces that the end of the school year is approaching. She claims the 3rd and 2nd year students will have to showcase their abilities in the Vibria Goat Librarian Certification exam. Tufa explains that the Vibria Goat exam is a general name for the massive labyrinth within the central part of Flandor. They imagine it to be a kind of library with millions of history books and texts. Those who dig up and examine those texts are known as Vibria Goat librarians. Rose and Kufa assure them that the exams aren't included for the first years. However, the headmistress approaches them, asking Elise and Melida if they would like to participate in the tournament. Kufa mentions that they are just first years, but the headmistress says that since they were Luna cadets, she wants them to prove to others that they are worthy of being Luna cadets. They don't have to pass, but she will allow them to stroll around the relatively risk-free first layer of the labyrinth. A few days later, Melida, Elise, along with several second-year students, present themselves at the library to take the test. Elise and Melida are excited to be on the same team together. They reach their destination, and Kufa bids Melida farewell, wishing her the best of luck in the exam. As they descend into the library, the headmistress explains the exam's rules. According to the grade of their school exam, they would proceed to the reading room on the applicable layer and obtain their proof of passing. They should then return to the first layer before the hourglass runs out. She adds that the Vibria Goat is protected by ghosts who are librarians in the library, keeping an eye out for intruders taking books without permission. The more they descend, the more powerful the ghosts become. However, the platform suddenly stops, and they are attacked by Black Mana, breaking the platform and causing them to fall. On the surface, a nun searches for the headmistress as Duke Felgus wishes to speak with her. Since she's not available, the nun asks Kufa to help substitute and meet with the Duke. They convene in a room, and Kufa introduces himself to the Duke. Duke Felgus asks about Melida and the director, and Kufa says they are at the examination site. The Duke believes Melida has no need for the exams and asks Kufa to bring her back at once. He shows him a letter with his intention to withdraw his daughter from the academy by the end of the school year. Kufa asks why he wants to withdraw her, and the Duke replies he wants to avoid any further controversy involving Melida. Kufa tries to convince him to wait one more year, believing there will be significant results by then. The Duke insists that he believes she's too inexperienced, even though she doesn't know the full extent of her ability. Kufa defends that this is true, but he still believes in her potential. Their conversation is interrupted when a nun brings a black letter to them, saying it's urgent. Duke Felgus realizes it's from the Grimfist Guild, and reading it, they deduce that the guild plans to assassinate the girls. Melida and Elise, alone and transported to a different floor of the library by the Black Mana, are confused about what happened. They decide to explore on their own, and the hourglass signifies that the time for the certification exam has begun. As they head down the stairs, they are attacked by two dark spirits, which are the library ghosts. They manage to avoid the attacks and prepare to engage in combat. Each of them battles one ghost, and Elise has a bit of a hard time, while Melida enjoys fighting her opponent. Melida demonstrates what she learned from Kufa and easily defeats her ghost. Surprisingly, even Elise can beat her ghost. They celebrate the fact that they can defend themselves even without the headmistress being around and possibly pass the exam. However, they are suddenly ambushed by many ghosts, and Melida and Elise become overwhelmed. Just in time, Mule and Salacha appear to rescue them, easily eliminating the ghosts with their wind power. They introduce themselves to the girls, revealing that they are also taking the Vibria test. Meanwhile, up above, Kufa reassures Rose, Shenfa, and the nuns that he will bring the students back safely, and that they should keep watch in case anything happens while he's gone. The seniors regroup with the headmistress, who assures them that everything is fine. They question the headmistress about the situation, and she explains that the vegetation covering the elevator was an illusion created by a magical text, bringing them deep within the labyrinth. Now they have to return to the academy, report the situation, and seek help in finding the first years. Suddenly, members of Grimfist confront them, and Swidoke and the headmistress attempt to defend them. One of the members introduces himself as Crawdall, an apostle of the guild and an artificial lycanthrope who relishes his reputation as a necromancer. She demands to know why the guild is after the students. He refuses to answer, saying dead men tell no tales as he resurrects some of the guild members to attack the frightened students. The headmistress protects the students from the zombies, but he uses one zombie to attack her from behind. Still, she tries to protect the students. Just as Cordal is about to end the headmistress, Kufa arrives to save her, eliminating the zombies. Cordal raises more zombies, but Kufa easily eliminates some of them and proceeds to eliminate Cordal, causing the rest of the zombies to fall. He rushes to check on the headmistress, who has already collapsed from her wounds, asking Kufa to watch over the students. Two of the students kneel, begging for forgiveness, confessing that they were the ones who read the magical text on the elevator under their father's orders. They didn't know it would turn out like this. However, Cordal is not done. He reveals his true strength by discarding his flesh and returning as the undead king, summoning the library ghost to hunt them down. Kufa takes the headmistress and orders the students to run toward the gate leading to the academy, but Cordal and his army of ghosts block their way. Kufa starts slashing at some of the ghosts, but realizes in his human form he can't eliminate all of them. Luckily, William Jin uses his bandages to shield the students and Kufa. Williams then defeats Cordal using his bandages to suppress the undead king's powers. Kufa thanks him for his help, and the students are frightened since William is a half-monster. Swidok says it doesn't matter as they owe their life to William, and she thanks him on their behalf, which catches William off guard. William then informs Kufa that there is still real trouble ahead, saying the Grimfist Guild has infiltrated the academy, and they sent the letter to keep Kufa away from the academy. Their target isn't Melida but all the academy's students. They want to silence all the eyewitnesses to Melida's imposter father's show that happened at the academy. Kufa is relieved that he left Rose, Nerva, and some other girls who are currently defending the academy from the invaders. Kufa assures the girls he will bring Melida and Elise back when suddenly Oyaji appears, greeting them casually. He says he heard William wants to join their guild, but William tells him that he just exchanged information. If they share their information on how to turn a monster back into a human, he will act as a spy and regularly provide them intel on criminal activities. Oyaji says he will agree depending on how effective William performs in future tasks. Kufa then asks Oyaji why he came, and he informs Kufa that Duke Surge of the House of Shixel was behind everything. He entrusts Kufa with the rest of the mission. On the other hand, Melida begins to question Mule if she really came for the Labyrinth exam, and Mule says yes, suggesting they work together as first years and finish the examination together. Melida agrees to the idea. Mule leads them to an open space with many books, one on a platform. It opens, initially blank, until writing magically appears on it. Mule reads it, indicating that it's asking if they will take the exam, to which Melida agrees. The next page opens, stating that the exam has started and involves them mending and orderly arranging the books. They initially think it's easy until a book from the pile opens up, and a demon, known as an imp, emerges from it. Mule explains that if they eradicate the demon, the books will be mended. Melida takes on the demon, mends the book, and celebrates with Elise. However, more imps start to emerge from other books. Melida continues to deal with the demons while the others work on reorganizing the books. They realize that the books keep rejecting the positions they were placed in. Elise manages to solve one puzzle, and Mule reads that book, discovering clues for the placement of other books. They decipher the correct arrangement, and with Melida's help, they pass the test. As they celebrate their success, 4 books glow together, indicating that they have passed the test. The hourglass shows they have plenty of time left to return to the surface. However, Mule starts questioning why Melida, a first-year student, wanted to pass the test when for them. As top students, they just took the test for fun. Melida says she wanted to be recognized as a descendant of House Angel by everyone. Mule pretends to understand but then questions Melida if the examination will truly act as proof of her belonging to the House of Angel. Elise steps in front of Melida as a form of defense. Mule stops her accusations and offers to lead them to the exit. However, Salacha decides to take Melida's book, claiming it's for her good. Mule asks Salacha to return the book, but Salacha reveals that the test was a trap. Elise opens the book and discovers that they have not passed the 6th grade test but 1 grade higher, grade 5. Ghosts start filling the room, and Mule takes the book back from Salacha, reads it, and smirks, saying that Melida belongs to the samurai class, shocking Melida. Mule adds that she needs to give this information to the older brother of the Shixel family and uses the bookshelf to launch herself upwards. Elise quickly says they need to catch Mule, and a disheartened Melida reluctantly agrees. Salacha helps them out of the place. They finally catch up to Mule, and Melida demands an answer, saying she thought they were friends. Mule assures her that she did it because she cared about her. She then uses a magical text, transporting everyone to another place. In this new location, the girls find themselves in a world of stories reminiscent of Alice in Wonderland. Melida is dressed like Alice, and the other girls wear different costumes. A masked man named Bijou appears in front of the girls, revealing that they are in a huge cage, and Melida is currently undergoing a trial. Elise decides to defend Melida and goes after Bijou, but he hits her away and attacks with dark ink. Elise blocks the ink with her sword, but it starts eroding the sword. Bijou proceeds to kick her away, but Melida jumps behind and catches her, hitting a pillar and promising to protect Elise. Serge shoots black ink at Melida to eliminate her, but Kufa intervenes and defends them, stating that he will handle everything. Melida is grateful but insists on helping. Kufa takes her hand, helping her stand, and they both start fighting against Bijou. They synchronize perfectly, attacking and blocking Bijou's attacks simultaneously. Melida recalls all her training with Kufa, and with Melida's assistance, she sends Bijou into the air, freezing him there. Kufa uses a special ability to destroy Bijou, shattering the cage. Melida runs to hug Kufa. Eventually, everyone returns to the academy entrance safely. Rose rushes to hug Elise, saying she was worried about her. The headmistress and Zwidok welcome them back too. Duke Felgus sees all this but chooses to leave and not interfere. Kufa can see Melida's worried expression, but he assures her by patting her head. Days later, several people write various letters claiming to be Melida's father. The controversy surrounding Melida is resolved. She becomes friends with the girls at the academy and meets with her father before his retirement. He mentions that regarding her samurai class, in her great-grandmother's generation, there was someone with the samurai class. He also tells her that she resembles her mother. Melida starts crying after being accepted by her father, surprising the man. He leaves her in the care of Kufa, who is watching everything and then departs. Kufa tells Melida that he's happy for her. Watch this next video. See you on the next one.